Hey everyone, how is it going? Right, so today we are looking at the CARO-KANN defense, one of the most popular defenses for black, really well worth knowing. This one was requested by Bob Bauer, so Bob, this one is for you. As always, huge shout out to my subscribers, thank you so much, honestly it means loads. And as always, if there's anything that anyone wants to see, pop it down in the comments at the bottom and I will try to cover it. But let's just jump right in. So the CARO-KANN, like I say, super popular defence for black, and it is always done as a response to King's Pawn opening on the e4. So to do the Caro, all you're doing is getting the c7, pushing forwards to the c6, and when they come down, push the d4, try and control that centre. You get your d7 and push it up to d5. And here we have the CARO-KANN. Few ways it can play out. They could push forward, that's the advanced variation, or alternatively they could take, that's the exchange variation. Few other ways it can go. So let's jump right in and have a little look at them. Now from this position in the main line, white will get their horsey and just plunk it here on the c3 and defending this pawn and just putting plenty of pressure down here. So from here, just take, they take back and get your little bishop, shimmy it across to here onto the f5 and just keep the pressure on this horsey. Now in the Caro, main things we're normally looking at doing is pushing this pawn forward just to open up your bishop here, and what I tend to do is be getting my queen onto here onto the c7, doubling it up with the bishop, and for when they castle off to the king's side you can see they form a really powerful partnership just attacking down this way. We can look at getting out the horsey, popping it here on the d7 and doubling it up with this horsey here on the f6. And eventually we'll start pushing forwards with our pawns down on the queen side there. Now white's not going to leave their horsey just dangling out there in the wind, so it'll jump it back here to the g3. Popping down the pressure onto your bishop, which you're then forced to move out the way. So just move it back to the g6. And normally for black the white square bishop isn't normally that great, but you can see here it's not in a bad position. It's got a nice open file, can do a little bit of damage there, and yeah, it's just not in a bad place at all. Now the main line continues with getting that h2 pawn and pushing it down to the h4, slightly damaging their pawn structure here, but you can see they're pushing down coming after your bishop. So just get your pawn pushed forwards to the h6, and that gives your bishop just a little way out and a little cubby hole there to hide. From here, white continues the development, gets their other horsey out, and all we're going to do is the same, continue developing and get our horsey out. Like I said before, we're getting the horsey here to the d7 for when we bring out this horsey, and the two can just work together, defend each other, and just gets you a nice little spot there. Then yeah, like I say, we'll be looking at getting our queen out, pushing forward the pawns eventually. But white will continue attacking that bishop, and like I say, we've made the little cubby hole, so we'll just slide it back on there, and you can see it's nice and safe. And from here, white is going to get their bishop and just plop it right here on the d3, coming down, attacking our bishop. Basically we're forced to exchange. I mean, we can leave it and develop as normal, and then when he takes, we take with the bishop, but we're losing our castling opportunities on the king's side, and it's nice to just keep that option open. So we take, and then he takes back with his queen. And here, just get your pawn, push it forwards to the e6, and just opening up your bishop. And from here, what we're going to be looking at doing is eventually getting our little horsey out here. We're going to be getting the bishop out. We can either, bring it right the way out into action. Some people like to just plop it here. I prefer pinging it up to here on the d6. And like I say, just doubling it up with the queen. Alternatively, you can look at getting your queen across onto the b6. For when they move this bishop out the way, then we're staring down the queen's side, and after this free pawn, it's completely down to yourself how you want to play it. But yeah, essentially that is the main line of the CARO-KANN. So that was the main line that we looked at. Let's have a little look if they decide to push the pawn forward to the e5. This is known as the advanced variation. Couple of things we can do here. We can either bring out the bishop, or we can push forward the pawn, and we'll have a little look at both. We'll start with bringing out the bishop to the f5. So from here, white will just develop as normal, bring out the little horsey to the f3, and this way we get the pawn and just push it forwards to the e6 and just kind of close off that gate, stop him from advancing any further there, and also opening up our bishop. And this is going to come into play quite shortly because we're going to be trying to hopefully get it on this square. So white will bring out the bishop to the e2, just supporting the horsey here, and this is where we get the pawn, push it forward to the c5, and like I say, we'd like him to take, so we can just take straight back with our bishop. They're probably not going to do that though. Normally, you just want to try and keep the tension there, and they'll just castle off to the king's side. And just continue developing as normal, with your horsey to the c6. Now, white will push the pawn to the c3, and from here, this is where we take. So takes, they take back, and then, yeah, we just get our little horsey and just plop it right here on the e7. And from here, what we're going to be wanting to do, we need to try and free open this bishop a little bit, so we'll be moving the horsey across to here, to the g6. We can get our queen, pop it there, looking at trying to take this pawn when he moves that out the way. Pushing forwards with our pawns, get your rook across onto the c8, so we've got it on a nice open file, and normally we'll be trying to castle off to the king's side. And you can see, we're not really in a bad position from here. We've got plenty of options. Nothing's overextended, which is one thing that I really like about the Caro. The pawns are always working together, supporting each other. Like I say, not overextending. And everything just kind of... everything has a plan, you know? There's a good place for everything. There's always good options. Depending on what white does, there's always options there available for you. Really solid defense and plenty of attacking options. Like I said before, you can always, when they do the advance, push forward the pawn to the c5. This is the Botvinnik Karl's defense. Probably pronounced that wrong, I don't care, don't correct me. They're not going to capture because that's just going to leave them with two pawns just without any support and overextended. So what they'll do is just bring forward that c3 pawn. And from here, develop your horsey, and they will do the same. You can see we normally end up with fairly similar kind of ideas for whichever variation that we're doing. So just capture the pawn, they capture back, and with your bishop, pin that horsey to the queen. There's a few things that white can do from here. They'll either, you know, bring down the horsey, looking at putting on the pressure to here, getting that centre control. Maybe they'll bring the horsey across to the d2. More often than not, you'll find they'll just be doing this with the bishop, looking at castling off to that side. And again, we have a few choices from here. We can either capture, they capture back, and then we push forward with the pawn, or you could push the pawn forwards first, they castle, and then capture. It's completely down to yourself. But normally we'll end up in this kind of position. And yeah, from here, pretty much exact same principles as before. We'll be looking at, you know, getting the horsey and rotating it to here. Eventually, we'll be wanting to open up this. Some people quite like to push forwards the pawn, and then when they capture, then they can bring up their horsey. I'm not as huge of a fan of that, because you kind of lose your support for this pawn here. Yeah, we'll be looking at, you know, bringing out the rook, getting it on the open file, pushing forwards the pawns, maybe bringing your queen up to here, looking at taking out their pawn here. We've got plenty of options, and basically just respond appropriately to whatever white's doing, as you normally would. Now, another line that you may see is when they bring out their horsey, we take, they take back, and we get our horsey and plop it on the d7. What we're looking at doing is getting our other horsey out to the f6, and then when he takes, we're capturing back, and we've essentially just rotated our queenside horse all the way off to the king side there. And you'll normally find it ends up playing out like so. So they bring out their other horsey, and that's when we go for that exchange. So takes and takes, and from here we've opened up the bishop. As before, we'll be looking at just getting the pin in there when we can. So they'll probably just want to support this pawn, push forward the c3, we go for the pin, and from here they'll either get the bishop out and look at castling, or they might push forward the pawn just to try and kick you out of the way. And, I mean, we can either take or move back. I normally just move back, and then they have the choice of either pushing forwards with the pawns and essentially weakening off that king side, forcing them to pretty much castle off to the queen side. Or they might just support it. Completely down to them what they're going to do. But as usual, just respond appropriately. Like I say, and we're just trying to keep the same principles as before. Eventually we'll be pushing that pawn forward to open up the bishop. You can castle off either way you see fit, and with the queen either plopping it here or plopping it here. And last one I want to have a little look at is in this position we do the takes and takes. However, this time we're just going to straight away get out our horsey to the f6. And what we're wanting is for them to capture. And when they do, you have a choice. You can either capture like so or like so. Capturing this way, while it's good that you can free open your rook and get it straight away onto an open file, you are kind of damaging your pawn structure here, which later on towards the endgame can pose a little bit of an issue. I much prefer capturing this way, and yeah, it basically just plays out same as before. So if they come out like this, we can, you know, get the pin. Looking at teaming these two guys up together and castling off. Well, they're all the sort of main lines that you're going to be seeing within the Caro. Obviously, it can play out in loads of different ways, but mainly they're the ones that you're going to be seeing there. I hope this has been helpful. Like I say, it's well worth knowing the Caro. It's one of my favourite defences, and it tends to be my go-to, to be honest. But yeah, go off, have a little play, and yeah, enjoy it. If you like this kind of thing, like I say, by all means, subscribe. It means the world. And if there's anything you want to see, just pop it down in the comment section there. But I will leave yous to it. Go off, play some chess and have some fun. Catch you guys later. Bye!